both of Obsidian's game releases in 2025 came and went extremely quickly. People played Avowed, then dropped it. People played Outer Worlds 2, and then dropped it. But now we are finding out that both of these titles underperformed, and it's really no surprise. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, some of the people behind Obsidian are very controversial. They will attack you if you criticize their work. They will attack you if you do not share their same opinions on the world. And they even have a group chat where they privately shame content creators they don't like and customers they don't like. We found that out when the whole entire Matt Hansen situation had happened before Avowed released. But both of Obsidian's launches in 2025 were pretty big failures. They underperformed, they did not sell well, and well, you probably shouldn't expect any follow-ups to these games in the future. Now, I think anybody with half a brain knew that these games did not do particularly well because while, yes, they go on to services like Game Pass and they are heavily promoted by Xbox, you still need to have good content that you are highlighting. You still need to have good content you are showing off and that you are creating, and that just didn't happen for them. Now, it is important for me to point out that Obsidian did see some success in 2025 because Grounded 2 was considered a big hit for them, but it first of all is an early access, so who knows what the player counts are going to be when full release rolls around, though its all-time peak on Steam was 49,836, which is much better than the other two games that I'm going to be talking about, but it has sort of fizzled out since it initially had released. We'll see what happens when full launch rolls around, but we don't even know when that's going to be. Though this new Bloomberg interview with Obsidian Entertainment does confirm some pretty bad news for Obsidian. So Grounded 2 was a big hit. Avowed and the Outer Worlds 2 had failed to meet sales expectations, and you have to take into consideration that both were in development for over 6 years. So we are talking about two games that they probably thought were going to be very big hits. They thought were going to be the beginnings of some new massive series, and they didn't do that well. It reminds me of what happened with Starfield. Now, Starfield did sell a hell of a lot more copies at release, and Starfield was considered a success, but people played it and then they dropped it and then it fizzled out. So what is Obsidian going to do now? I mean, they can't bank on a Grounded 2 or a Grounded 3 because the second game isn't in full release yet. So it's going to be years before they create a new one. We're not going to get an Outer Worlds 3, and I don't think we're going to get an Avowed 2. And I think a big problem that they face is Avowed is in the Pillars of Eternity universe, so they can't even separate the two and just be like, yeah, Avowed is sort of its own thing, it didn't work, let's make a new Pillars of Eternity, because the new PoE would be Avowed 2. It does mention that they want to keep making games in the Avowed/PoE universe, but will this actually happen? I don't necessarily know. I don't know where they would go from here and how they would get people to be excited for another PoE game. They truly thought that this was going to go well for them, but I don't see how that ever could have been considered a successful plan. Was to change the direction of your series, make a new game in that series, and then launch 3 big games in the same year. That right there was a major red flag. It seemed that Obsidian was getting desperate. It seemed that they were struggling and they needed to pay the bills. So they were like, well, we're just going to pump out all the content we have. But I don't know why they would ever do that. Why not space it out? They could have released Grounded 2. They could have the next year released, I don't know, Avowed. The year after that, released the Outer Worlds 2. Then the year after that, they could have taken Grounded 2 out of early access, had it be the full release, and then that would have given them several years to work on additional content, whether it is DLC or new games. But now they're just stuck between a rock and a hard place because they have 280 employees. And so they need to pay 280 employees, never mind paying for the development of games and the years that it's going to take. Like, this just doesn't sound very good, in my opinion. All they have to fall back on now is DLC, but they're creating DLC for virtually nobody. And yes, these did launch on console, Game Pass day one, but when you look at the individual sales, it's not good. And companies do still need individual sales. They can't just rely on Game Pass downloads in order to make money. But looking at Avowed, the all time peak a year ago was 19,198 on Steam. Not what you would expect for an Obsidian game. And the all time peak for The Outer Worlds 2 3 months ago was 18,251. And right now in game and Outer Worlds 2 is 659 and Avowed has 378. So maybe they could get a couple thousand of these players back, but it's still not a lot. And they're admitting that both of these games failed to meet sales expectations. They did not do good. They did not do what they want. And all I can really do is point and laugh because we knew that this was going to happen. They were modern audience slop. I was not the biggest fan of the Outer Worlds one. I thought it had a little bit going for it. I thought it was enjoyable, but it did take me a long time to get through just because there were certain sections I felt were super dull. The tone was off, didn't quite like it. But Outer Worlds 2, I had zero interest in. And I know a lot of people felt the same. I saw the cringe DEI squad. I saw the pronoun nonsense. I saw what they were doing, the direction they were taking in. Also, the way they were marketing it was terrible. I mean, the way Xbox UK was marketing it was me replying to my haters. The wokies ate this up saying, oh my gosh, it's so stunning and brave. Yeah, you tell those chuds. Well, the chuds didn't show up to buy your game, and now the chuds have won because it failed to meet sales expectations. And Avowed was truly modern audience slot because you had the gay fishman, you had the tiny cringe woman who constantly swore and she was supposed to be, ooh, funny and edgy, terrible. The entire cast of characters was just atrocious. The storytelling in the game was bad. The world building wasn't even that good. And visually, none of these games looked stunning. So you just are presenting us with really mediocre to bad content and nobody's going to support you. And now gamers get the last laugh. There are so many hilarious memes here, like this face that goes, huh? Really? You don't say? It amazes me how people allow this DEI slop to be made when it costs millions, despite no gamer appeal at all. Seems like money laundering. Make stupid game, get no revenue. Game devs then, GPA 4.0, a bunch of chill guys that show that they love games, and game devs now are GPA 0.5s wearing all of these different flags because they're activists. And this is a big problem we face in the video game industry. When you hire activists, you are going to win stupid prizes. And as I always say, in theory, I would like for anybody to be able to work in video games. If you love video games, I shouldn't have to care about your political leaning. But these are the types of people that are infecting our spaces, pushing out the truly talented developers and storytellers, and they are just hiring their own activist ilk, but they're not creating anything good. They're cultural Marxists, plain and simple. They don't give a fuck about video games. They just care about the potential power and money they can make off of this space. And well, Obsidian looks like it's going to face a lot of problems going forward and maybe even go under because they have nothing to fall back on now. Way to destroy your studio with DEI, Obsidian Entertainment. That's it. The retards are there. Obsidian should have just called themselves Glass now with how much of a downgrade they have become. I hope Fable follows suit. They push DEI and modern brain rot into their product. It's created by the mentally ill who follow the doctrine born on Epstein Island. They deserve a total collapse. Outer Worlds 2 was surprisingly good, way better than the first one, and I'm glad some people liked it, but it's not enough people to keep it alive very clearly. Remember this tweet, me replying to my haters? I guess all the pandering bullshit in game and trying to get the modern audience didn't work, so Yeah, that is Big Yatzliel. That's the name of the character because I'm probably one of the only people in this community that actually played Avowed, unfortunately for me. But things are not going particularly well for Obsidian. We now are finding out that Avowed and the Outer Worlds 2 failed to meet expectations. And well, I think anybody with half a brain knew that these games were not going to do good because they just didn't have any mass appeal. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this important and informative, make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.